This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
What's up, y'all? This is One Royal Way here on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Joel Penfield. Jordan Foote joining me as always. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Josh for this last one, nor could we get our guy Peter Apple. We tried to get him on this last episode, but being the national show that the Just Baseball show is for Peter, tried to get him in the middle of the playoffs, so it was kind of tricky, but hopefully we maybe can do something with him this offseason and get a show together with him. But we appreciate you guys hanging out with us all year. This is the last regular episode you're going to see from us until next season around the beginning of March. If anything crazy happens this offseason, we'll obviously hop on and we'll talk about it. But regular stuff is not going to come around until the beginning of 2024. But last episode, Jordan, how you feeling, man?
It's bittersweet, man. Like it's been a fun year despite talking about a team that hasn't been very fun. It's still been good to jump on here and chat with you and Josh. And I can't believe he big-timed us for the final episode of the year. No, Josh, I know you're listening, so I'm not serious about that. Only 99%. But we got plenty to talk about, man. There's Fall League. There is a bunch of salary numbers. We're going to look back at how dumb we were before the season, and then we're going to play a game that Josh put together at the very end of the show.
Yeah, even though he big leagued us on this last episode, couldn't make it, still is contributing. So we at least have that from Josh. No, this has been a ton of fun. I think this is the best iteration of any Royals podcast that I've done. No slight to any of the guys I've done with previously, but I think this has been awesome, and I'm excited for what we're going to be able to do next year too. I think we can make it bigger and better. We appreciate the support that you guys all give us. So be sure to hit the like button on YouTube. Subscribe to our podcast. Subscribe to everything we're doing here at KCSN. We got a lot of good stuff. And we can't thank Kansas City Strength and Conditioning enough. 2 full years sponsoring this show. Day one sponsors here. Be sure to check them out if you have a baseball or softball player in the area that needs a place to train. We're going to start tonight talking about the Arizona Fall League, which kicked off last week, at the beginning of last week. But there wasn't enough to really mention other than the previous week when we talked about all the guys that are down there playing for, that are a part of the Surprise Saguaros, which is the Royals, part of the team for the Fall Leagues. Everyone combined, I think there's like 6 teams and 5 teams combined rosters, and it's a bunch of top prospects or like kind of quad A guys, like prospect finishing school to get ready for the next season. So the Saguaros are 3-4 at this point. It's hard to take away like a ton from this because the Fall League is short, but 742 OPS as a team. Second among all AFL teams at this point, 5 home runs. They're 5th out of 6 in walks and strikeouts. Having some Royals hitters in there does contribute to some of that. On the pitching side, a 5.85 ERA, second worst of the 6 teams. 7 home runs is tied for the most. 14 hit batters, just opposed by 6. My goodness. And not all this is Royals pitchers, but damn. And then the 4th most walks and strikeouts. Some individual performances here. Peyton Wilson's having a great Fall League, which it doesn't always translate, but a good Fall League usually helps springboard some guys into the next season. We saw that Nate Eaton had a pretty good Fall League, I remember, in 21, heading into 22. So that's just a recent example of this. 974 OPS for Peyton Wilson, as many walks as strikeouts, couple doubles. Had a good night tonight against Takeo Roby, who is top pitching prospect in the Cardinals organization. So good to see them. Nick Lofton has played in 1 game, 1 for 4 with a double. Played first base, which I thought was interesting. I thought maybe it was going to be, some outfield, some third, and see where it goes in. So maybe we could be looking at a platoon type situation at first base with him.
What isn't he going to play? Like, what isn't Nick Lofton capable of playing, and B, going to actually play at some
Man,
point?
he is not beating the Merrifield allegations at all.
No, not one bit.
The lazy comp was Nick Lofton's kind of like Whit Merrifield, and sure as shit, he's going out there and playing every position just like what Merrifield did. But it's interesting to note that he's getting a lot more time at first base. So maybe we could see days when he's playing first, Vinny's DHing, and then on days when Vinny's playing first, Lofton's playing wherever the hell else. I don't know where else they're going to play him. Gavin Cross is down there as well, 3 for 11, with 4 stolen bases in 3 games. So 273 batting average. For me, it's just good to see him out there playing again. Whatever he was dealing with there throughout the season with all the struggles that he had, and then the illness or whatever it was that he really only played a couple of games in Double-A. Just good to see him back out on the field, and hopefully he's able to flush this year, start from scratch in 24 in Northwest Arkansas, and hopefully regain some of his prospect status. On the pitching side, Rylan Kaufman is only throwing 1 inning. Angel Zerpa is only throwing 1 inning. Eric Sarantola has 4 strikeouts in 3 innings, giving up a home run. And then Jacob Wallace, 2 1/3, 5 strikeouts. Not a ton of sample, but just good to see all of our guys get a little bit of time while they're down there.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, you can't take too much away. Like, Gavin Cross could be 7 for 11 or 11 for 11 or 0 for 11, and you couldn't really say, okay, well, you should feel this way, you should feel that way. But getting guys down there, getting Peyton Wilson some more reps, getting Nick Lofton, like, that was really more of a surprise on my end. I thought that Nick Lofton was going to go down there, especially after he played so well at the big league level in the limited action he had. But anyone down there is getting valuable reps, and you may not be playing against everyday big league competition on a daily basis. You might not be doing it for multiple months at a time, but like, still, like you said, prospect finishing school. You're getting down there, you're finishing off your prospect profile. Guys like Angel Zerpa are getting more reps from an injury shortened season. You're getting people down there to get valuable at bats, valuable innings pitched. You're still facing talented people. So not the end all be all. If the team sucks, doesn't really matter. If the team does well, doesn't necessarily mean that the prospects are all doing great. But probably the 2 big takeaways, Lofton down there playing first base, and then I guess Cross, like him just being there, like you said, after the roller coaster of a year he went through, and really a lot of downs on that roller coaster, not many ups. Being able to just get down there and play baseball of any sort is a step for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not selling all my Gavin Cross stock. Obviously, this year was a little concerning, but if it really was like him fighting through an injury all year, and then the injury led to failure, and then the failure kind of spinning in your head, and it becomes a mental and physical thing, maybe if he's able to just get a reset, get some at bats, has a decent fall league, maybe that rebounds into 24. We're having a different conversation about where Gavin Cross is at in this organization. Let's now look back at our preseason predictions for this year. Man, this was tough. This was really tough. Royals MVP, George, you and Josh said Bobby Witt Jr. I said Brady Singer just so we didn't have some sort of anonymity or my God,
anonymity. It's all the same.
My brain is just not in it today.
It's all the same.
Didn't have some like uniformity, and it was all the same thing. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah, Brady Singer obviously didn't work out this year. It was rough. There were spots where I'm like, oh, he's back, and then the next 3 starts would be awful. And then he was back, so the up and down nature was tough. But we've talked about it ad nauseum. We don't need to go too far into it. Bobby Witt Jr. turned into a star, and it was one thing that needed to happen this year for this team. And he was very obviously this team's MVP. I couldn't think of anybody different that it could be.
We talked, I think it was last week, maybe the week before. It might have been when Josh was here. But for Bobby Witt Jr. you could cut like June 1st or even July 1st to the end of the year, and he'd still be the MVP of the team. Like, he was so good during that stretch. And it's not like he was a negative player by any means before that, but he was kind of middling and scuffling a little bit. You could see the expected numbers were, and I think we even poked fun. We were like, yeah, well, they're expected, and he's not living up to them. Then all of a sudden it clicked. And he went nuts. So there's no other contender. Like, if Cole Reagans was there for a full year, maybe he pushes a little bit, but like, still with the defense, with the bat, there's no one that even held a candle to him.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Speaking of Cole Reagans, he's the pitcher of the year for the Royals, and he was here for about 2 months. It kind of says the nature of the pitching staff this year. We all said preseason that it was going to be Brady Singer, and that just fell flat on its face pretty much from Jump Street. Hopefully he's able to rebound next year. And then you have a 1-2 combo at the top that's like, hey, these are pretty solid guys to build a rotation around. I'm going to honorable mention James MacArthur I know we talked about him last week, but that last month of the year was absolutely awesome. And a team that has a lot of open slots and open tryouts for the bullpen in 2024. Seems like a guy that is at least, put himself in the conversation for Sharpie in the bullpen to begin next year at a minimum. So exciting stuff there on multiple fronts, but that would be another guy too. Can I mention first half Carlos Hernandez?
Yeah. No,
first half
he was good in the first half. He was great. He was awesome. And second half, obviously, not so much. And we'll talk about him, I believe, later with the ARB estimates and stuff like that. But first half was great. Second half, I believe, got a little bit better towards the end. I didn't look at the numbers before we jumped on, but
it was fine.
After the break, it was rough. After the deadline, really we were like, the Royals should have traded him when they could. And I think I've kind of settled back into the let's see what he is. But even in the first half, I was like, I'm not quite sure this is it. And he didn't end up being that. So we'll see.
Yeah. Best hitter, you and Josh get a mulligan here. You said Vinny Pasquantino. That would have been inarguable, I think, in the full season. I said Bobby. Obviously, Bobby ended up being that guy, but part of the reason why I said that was just the power, speed, all of it. I felt like just to the total package of what Bobby could bring ended up being that, and it was true. I mean, he was extra base hit machine, was basically turning singles into doubles pretty much all year. He ended up being that guy, and I'm going to keep talking about it because it's so remarkable for a 23-year-old to tap into his power a lot more and not strike out. Like to cut the strikeout rate the way he did was really impressive. And again, he's kind of only scratching the surface on where he is. The record is 56 and 106. Really? We all were between 74 and 79 wins. That was a tough scene. Like the end of April, we were like, oh boy, this is not going well.
I thought that I was going to come in. So before we jumped into that prediction, I thought that I was going to be really low compared to you guys. And compared to Josh, I was 5 games off. That's a decent amount. But when you hit 75 and 87, I was like, oh, okay, I don't feel like I'm being a hater or anything. And I was like, that is a tangible improvement over last year. They had the logic to have that tangible improvement. Yeah, it was like, they're not contending. They're not 500. They're not close to either of those. They are better. And it could be the bridge year to being a 500 team in 2024. Obviously, I don't even think they hit 74 and 88 a year from now. Next season, I think even getting to 70 would be pretty wild. But that's where if they were even 79 and 83 next year, people should be jumping up and down, even if they aren't.
Yeah, that would be a massive improvement. I mean, I think they get to 70. I'm going to come on here this time next year and go, hey, I think we're really heading in the right direction. It's not just the fake optimism or the optimism that's we're really grasping at straws trying to get there after a 56 win season. 70 wins, I'd feel a lot, but that's 14 win improvement. That would be remarkable for year 2 for this team. We're going to talk about our preseason awards and predict, what they could end up being right after this.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. We appreciate you guys hanging with us. We're going to talk about our preseason predictions and look back on the awards side. And this was not the Royals. This was full league. And then our standings and World Series predictions, all that kind of stuff.
Those were rough. Just in advance. In case you can't remember, I think I whiffed on everything, and that's off of memory.
I was very close. I was very close to whiffing on all of it. AL MVP, you and I said Shohei Ohtani. Yep, that he ended up being that. Josh, just to be different, said Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He had a weirdly disappointing year. I don't even think he had an 800 OPS. It was bizarre. I'm going to look up his season-long numbers because it was kind of whelming.
Yeah, I thought it was a good pick. I was like, okay, Josh, there's logic to that. And then he did not make the assertive 2023 statement that almost everybody thought he would.
Yeah, he had where is it here? Yeah, 788 OPS. Yeah, for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., like that was on 118 later in straight plus. Not great. But he's only 24. Maybe he's able to turn it around and stop hitting the ball on the ground so much. For AL Cy Young, you guys said Shane McClanahan. That's brutal because blew out his UCL pretty early on there. Tough look. I said Luis Castillo, and he was trending around that area, but he had some starts at the end of the year when the Mariners needed him to be their ace or win day guy, and he just couldn't get it done. I don't know who's going to win. It's probably going to be Garrett Cole. I think is going to win AL Cy Young for a fourth place Yankees team. That's pretty tough. Rookie of the year. We were all split. You said Gunnar Henderson. I said Hunter Brown, pitcher for the Houston Astros. And Josh said Masataka Yoshida. Gunnar Henderson went nuts in the second half of the season.
Yeah.
He was really, really good. I think he's pretty much, I think you could Sharpie him in as your rookie of the year. NL MVP, you and Josh said Ronald Acuna Jr. 40-70 will get it done. I said Freddie Freeman. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay, part of the reason why I did is he was plus 2,500, 25-1 to win an NL MVP. I'm like, he's so consistent and so good that I feel like that's stealing to get that value. And he had a freakishly good year. He was awesome. Ronald Acuna Jr. was just in another stratosphere.
Yeah.
And Mookie Betts came on in the second half of the year and went nuts and nearly went 40 home runs. So, I mean, Freddie Freeman had a 7.9 F4 season.
If he would just steal some damn bases and beat Ronald Acuna, he'd have 23? Wow. That is a lot more than I thought he had.
Yeah. 3/331, 410, 567. But yeah, Ronald Acuna went 40-70. We've never seen that before. Of course that's gonna win. Can't fault that. I still feel like I had a good side on that bet. It's not like it was a massive whiff.
Oh yeah. No, he was fantastic.
NL Cy Young, we were all split on this one as well. You said Spencer Strider. I had Zach Wheeler, and Josh had Corbin Burns. It's gonna be Blake Snell. Did you look at Blake Snell's second half?
No, before we jump into that, guess what Freddie Freeman's previous career high in stolen bases was before this year?
I don't know. Maybe like 15.
It was last year, actually, if it makes you feel better. What's your guess?
I don't know. I said like 15 maybe?
It was 13 last season. That's why when you said 23, I was like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
He's also not old, but he's not young. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just like, that's for a 34-year-old to randomly start stealing bases like that. It's pretty wild.
I mean, some of that for sure was the new rules.
Oh, 100%.
Definitely aids in that, but he is a very, very good, just like smart.
Yeah, he's very instinctual.
Always has been.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find Blake Snell's stats from there was a certain point of the year where he just went insane. I'm trying to find this here because if he has a couple more years, I think he's sneaky Hall of Fame.
Dude, he's pretty wild. That's not
okay. So here it is. Oh, that was since July. So let me look it up since May 25th. That was the arbitrary line that I've seen a lot used. Give me just a second. This is great radio here.
Live lookups are fantastic. They're my favorite part of every.
Blake Snell from May 25th on, 135 innings, 186 strikeouts, 1.20 ERA. Now, he also
that's insane.
22. He led the league in walks, punched out 200. I think the season-long ERA was low twos, I think, or in the high twos. I'll have to go back and look, but I mean, just an incredible year for Blake Snell. Season-long ERA 2.25. 234, 180 innings, and 99 walks. Wild. I mean, that is unsustainably wild run per base.
Yeah.
For the amount of dudes that he was letting on base.
What was his left on base percentage? Did you have his Fangraphs page up?
86%.
Those are like reliever, like come be a fireman and get these guys like taking care of numbers.
I did not expect to spend this much time on Blake Snell, but
he's a baller, dude. Yeah.
Yes. And a contract year's undefeated. He's going to get, 150 million or more, on a long, before the year. I'm thinking, man, if he may have a decent year, and I'd go get Blake Snell on a 2 to 3 year deal in Kansas City. He's very much priced himself out of that at this point. So, hey, good for him for getting that done for, second Cy Young and a Cy Young in both leagues. That's not hard. That's not easy to do. Mm-hmm. And a rookie of the year, you and I had Jordan Walker. Josh had Corbin Carroll. That was a great pick. I thought Corbin Carroll had already used up his rookie eligibility last season.
Same.
But he came up like mid-August, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, he wouldn't have done that. So Jordan Walker was okay, I think. I basically, once he got sent back down, I basically gave up on it.
Their season was also just not
their season was
following
bad
whatsoever. Yeah.
Yeah. He had a 116 WRC plus, 16 homers. He was in 170 games.
Yeah.
Like, he was fine. The Cardinals were just bad.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Division winners. This is fun.
Can we just skip this part? No, I'm just joking. Don't skip it.
In the American League, Jordan had the Yankees, the Cleveland Guardians, and the Seattle Mariners. And Josh and I had exactly the same. We had Toronto, Cleveland, and Houston. We at least got Houston. Minnesota was freakishly good. Baltimore came out of nowhere. I was not buying Baltimore at all. I thought they were a year away. Like, they would be pretty good, like fringe wild card. Didn't think they could do it, and then they won 100 games. So, but they're also getting absolutely whacked in Texas right now. So that I think the clock struck midnight on that Cinderella story, because it is not going well right now, at least the last I saw.
Well, some dumbass live bet them during the Texas game. Yeah, when they were down 1-0, to be fair.
Yeah, now it's 7-1 Texas right now on the top of the eight. Now the bases are loaded, but I do not think this is going to go well, and the number one season gets swept out. The wild card teams, you had Toronto, Houston, and Tampa. I had Seattle, the Yankees, and Tampa, and Josh had the Yankees, the Mariners, and the Rangers. The actual were Toronto, who's already out, Tampa, who's already out, and Texas, who looks like an absolute wagon right now. I think it's gonna be a Houston, Texas ALCS. It's gonna be electric.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. And like, Texas was a good pick in retrospect. Like, they were a team that coming into the year, I thought they'd be in that like 83 win range, where I was like, I
thought about them
gonna definitely make it. Yeah, I'm not sure. I kind of feel like I felt like Baltimore was, like you said, 1 year away from being like their quote unquote arriving. Texas, I was like, they threw a bunch of money at their team, and yes, I like what they have, but I also think it's going to take them a year, and they look absolutely fantastic.
So the National League was brutal to us.
Yeah,
this is bad. We all had the Cardinals winning the Central. We all had the Padres. I can't believe we fell for the Padres. I can't
believe I fell for the Mets.
You really? Okay, yeah, that was bad.
I'm a dumbass. And also my World Series pick. Like, my division and playoff picks were terrible, dude. They were objectively horrendous.
It was I at least had Atlanta.
I didn't have shit.
Winning the East.
I was just absolutely over.
Josh had the Phillies winning the East. Like, we were split. I think I can't remember thinking back. I think my wild card teams were Milwaukee, LA, and the Phillies. I think that was...
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, it was something like that. You had Atlanta, Philly, and the Dodgers in the wild card, and Josh had Atlanta, New York, and the Dodgers. I had the foresight to not believe in the Mets because, well, they're the Mets.
Good grief.
Yeah, the actual wild cards, the Phillies, who I think that series is at least going 5 with Atlanta, and Phillies might win it, as good as Atlanta is. And then Miami, good for them, and Arizona, good for them. Those are two of the worst teams in baseball a couple years ago, and they made the playoffs. So that's
crazy how that works, right?
Yeah. Hey, sign the right guys, get the right coach, you draft well. Turns out it can work out for you. What a concept, right?
Yeah.
World Series picks. I had the Braves over the Mariners, and the Mariners missed out by 1 game for the second time in 3 years. That was tough. Don't go 8-17 in September.
That'll be the culprit. Yeah, you're not.
Yeah, after
the right
going
time
20,
you were floundering.
They went 21-6 in August, and then 8-17 in September. Julio hit $155 the last 2 weeks.
Brutal. Lights were too bright.
Terrible. But speaking of terrible, you had the Yankees winning the World Series.
Yeah, and I'll probably believe in them again next year. We've had this discussion off air, I think, and I'm just going to let it out. Growing up, I loved A-Rod. I loved Jeter. I liked the Yankees a lot. They obviously weren't my go-to team, but if I would have had one that wasn't Kansas City based as a kid, it would have been the Yankees. And I know that sounds terrible, but I still can't get rid of the stench, and the Cardinals would have been the backup to the backup. So, yeah, there's my confession buried in the end of season pod.
I mean, I think at this point, it's not a hatred of the Yankees. It's more just laughing at them because they're a delusional franchise that is in the past.
Yes.
Will not understand that no one gives a shit about them anymore. Their cachet is gone. Yeah, and their fans suck too. Yeah. Guys our age that are going 27 rings when most of them were one when their great grandpa and grandpa were watching the Yankees. Could be worse though. Josh had the Padres over the Yankees.
The poor guy.
I know we flamed him for it at the season pod. I'm gonna do it again because holy hell, that was bad. Oh man, the Padres Padres aren't auto fade for me for a while. I'm not buying. I bought it the last 2 years.
Yeah,
I really I know the PED stuff. I still love Tatis. I think he's great for the game of baseball. Sneakily became out of nowhere the best right fielder in baseball.
It was wild. Yeah,
position regularly. He only had a 790 OPS with 25 homers. That's the floor. The dude's still a freak. He's so good. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm auto-fading them next year. I'm not putting them in the playoffs. I already know that's going to happen. I don't care what offseason moves they make.
They could sign Jesus Christ. I'm not doing that shit.
I'm not buying it.
Yeah. No way.
It's one of those things until proven otherwise. I'm not betting against the Rays. I don't care what they do. And I'm not betting against and I'm auto-fading the Padres.
We'll be back in March and we'll both be picking the Padres to do some damage.
I refuse. This is a principle for me at this point. I'm not doing it. I'm not betting against the Dodgers in the NL West until proven otherwise. I can't do it.
Fair enough.
Yep, we're going to take a break and we'll get back to the Royals here right after this.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate y'all. So we're going to talk about now the arbitration estimates that came out for MLB trade rumors for all ARB-eligible Royals. Some guys, it's their first crack at it. A couple other guys are coming around in the second or third time. And then some non-tender candidates that go along with this, because that's part of this as well. So here are the estimates for the player, and then what what is believed that the ARB estimate will be. Brady Singer, $5.1 million. Chris Bubich, $2.4. Taylor Clark, $2.2. Edward Olivares, $1.8. Taylor Hearn, $1.7. Carlos Hernandez, $1.3. Josh Taylor, $1.3. And Josh Staumont, $1.2. Off the rip, is there anybody that you think is going to get that amount or possibly greater?
Man, I think the Chris Bubich one's interesting because he blew his elbow out and was good when he played, but also the sample's so small, but also he's a young player. I think the Edward Olivares one is interesting. I don't think Taylor Hearn is worth that much to the Royals. I don't think Josh Taylor is necessarily worth, which that's not really fair to him, but I just don't. Taylor Clark, that seems to be pretty accurate for him, if not even a little bit light. I could see him pushing for a little bit more. Staumont, we'll talk about non-tender guys. The Brady Singer one's interesting because, the Royals don't always go to arbitration very often. They've been notorious under previous management for avoiding that whenever possible. I'm giving Joel time to look at the Fangraphs evaluation to see how much he was worth, which is an imperfect practice because it's like F Ward times whatever 8 million per, and then it gives you an estimate that's not always lines up with how much the player was worth, but that's really the big one. Obviously, is double the next closest guy.
So he was, according to Fangraph, the WAR dollars stat, 15.2.
Okay, bullshit. No.
Well, for perspective, in 2022 was 23.3.
Oh, yeah.
And it was even less than his 2021 when it was 16.7. Just
okay.
Now, again, it is imperfect. It is kind of like, it's just an approximation. Just give some perspective on the player, but it's not a concrete, gospel of how much money they're actually worth. Now, I did look, you talked about arbitration.
Mm-hmm.
The Royals went to arbitration with Brady Singer last year.
Yep.
He was the projected our number last year was 2.9. He filed 3.325. The Royals filed 2.95. Royals won in that arbitration case. So this is a pretty significant jump, but this is also ARB 2, so the number is going to increase. I bet that 5.1 sticks. I don't think the Royals will try and undercut him 2 years in a row. I would be pretty shocked if that happens. If it does, then I think that tells you a lot about how they feel about Brady Singer moving forward.
I was just about to say that. Do you think that, and I'm not an agent, I'm not a player, obviously, but if they do that twice in a row, do you think the agent, takes that into account at the negotiation table or even the idea of it, I guess?
I could also see it's like a scenario where it's, okay, let's just see, basically seek a trade. What? If they don't value this way, then we just need to, find a way to have a move made.
Yeah. It's not a contentious thing, and it's not saying, hey, screw you, dude. But it's not nothing.
The thing is that, hey, man, you, dude, is the entire point of arbitration.
Yes, exactly.
That's exactly I know that people in the organization, the people around baseball, we don't want to hear that, but that's accurate. You go into those meetings, and players have talked about it, what is said and what teams bring to the table to not pay a guy because they don't want to pay him that much money. Even if that money is pennies compared.
Well, and the Nicky Lopez thing, their gap, I can't remember what it was, but it was something extremely small. It was not a big gap at all. It was the Brady Singer thing was a few $100,000. I think the Lopez thing was literally $200,000 maybe, and I could be out to lunch on that.
I'm looking it up because this happened in 22, I believe.
Yeah.
So he tried to get 2.9 and got 2.55.
Okay, so I was off on that, but still.
Yeah. But what also was crazy about that Nicky Lopez one is it drug on into June.
Yeah. No, it was wild because I remember there was a game, and then
to be fair, some of that was because of the lockout, but
yeah. But still, it was okay, here, by the way, Nicky Lopez and the Royals agreed to blah, 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 this is what he got. And it was a drop of a hat. I don't know. I think these estimates are mostly, I'm trying to figure out how I want to word it. For the player themselves, I don't think they're bad, but for how much the player is worth to the Royals, I think they could not be worth it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Considering with Josh Taylor, with Josh Stammet, with Taylor Hearn, they could definitely be worth that in arbitration, but the Royals may not necessarily need to allocate that for that player.
And that's where I think some of the non-tender stuff comes in. I bet Bubic gets close to that amount.
Mm-hmm.
I bet probably a little less purely because he's not coming back until
2.1 or something.
Yeah, the Royals aren't going to screw him and go 1.5. It's not.
Yeah.
Taylor Clark, I bet he just agrees to that 2.2 because I don't know if he'll get 2.2 anywhere else. The Olivares one is interesting because he came back up from Omaha and was raking.
Yeah.
But is he going to keep doing that? And the defense is horrible, and Nelson Velasquez was awesome. I think it's kind of that odd man out scenario.
Yeah, the writing's on the wall, I think, for him.
I think so too. But if they brought him back, I won't be upset. It's not a scenario where it's this guy doesn't belong on the Royals. It's just I just don't know where he fits in at this point.
Yeah,
like at all, because he's a DH that's not a DH because he doesn't hit enough to be a DH. I don't know.
Yeah,
but the non-tender, I think Hearn, Taylor, and Josh Staumont are getting non-tendered. The Josh Staumont one is unfortunate because it's thoracic outlet. Like that can be a career ender for a lot of guys. And what made Josh Staumont great at the beginning of his career was the velocity. 97 to 101. He was 94 at times this year. And with his stuff and lack of command, that's just not going to play. And so I hope he gets healthy. Maybe the Royals kind of do what they did for Jake Brentz and give him a 1 or 2 year deal, couple $1 million, get healthy. We want to have you back. We still believe in you. It could be something like that. But I don't picture it. I think the Josh Taylor thing was kind of a wash at this point. Like he wasn't good prior to the injury, and then he got hurt, and he had been hurt prior to that. So it becomes the best ability is availability. He hasn't been over the last couple of years. So I think that's a non-tender move, and you just move on, even though he has options in another year. I don't know where he fits in, and I think there are dudes that are far more worthy of those innings than Josh Taylor.
Yeah, the arbitration thing and even the non-tender thing, the Royals are still at their core, even without Dayton Moore there. And JJ Picollo has proven to be, I think, more of a business-oriented and cost-effective type guy. But in that same breath, he's not this cutthroat, like, I'm going to piss everybody off, or I'm going to, he's not going to move like that. He's still going to make moves that are in best interest. He does care about the people still. The thing, like with a Josh Taylor, if they want him to have a little bit more time, or if with Staumont, they do want him to come back on a minor league deal, or, have some extra time to get himself back to where he was, or at least have the option to stuff that other teams probably would do anyway, but you're already there. You don't have to move. You're already familiar with the team. You like the people there. You believe in whatever pitching development, like, there's probably incentive for some of those guys to stick around just as much as there is for the Royals to keep them for super cheap, because it's not really costing any real significant money. I know I'm kind of contradicting myself because I said earlier it's not worth it for them to allocate, but if you're giving them those types of deals like they did with Brent's, then it's okay. And you're not going over arbitration. You're not necessarily going through that whole process, but there's at least 3, if not 4, counting Olivares, but I think he just, on like the circle of trust for non-tender candidates, he's on like tier 2. He's not a tier 1 core, you have to do that type guy.
Yeah, I agree with that. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out, and we're not going to get a ton of details. We'll just know, hey, the move was made, or they're going to arbitration, but we're not going to hear about anything other than that. So we're going to play a game that our buddy Josh came up with, sent us and said, hey, if you want to do this, do it. We think it'll be good. And actually, it works out really well toward the end of the podcast, for the end of the season, kind of acts as an off-season checklist for us. So we have $5 to spend on the following things. So Josh gave us some scenarios, and we're going to talk about a couple of moves that we would make. So player signings. $3 can go to market value plus 10% for Aaron Nola. $2 to sign Cody Bellinger. $1 to sign Josh Hader. And $1 to sign 3 pitching reclamation projects. On the staff side, $1 to hire additional scouts and cross-checkers, or $1 for more analytics or tech people. Prospects, $1 to get Gavin Cross on track for a 2025 debut, $1 to marginally increase 2024 farm system production, and then we got a trade one, which is $1 to trade Salvador Perez and $20 million for a former top 100 pitcher and 2 Dominican League lottery tickets. I'll let you go ahead and talk through your 3. I did not prepare for this prior to, because I'd almost never prepare prior to for any of the show. Look behind the scenes here, I just fire from the hip. But where are you spending your $5 on this?
I kind of struggled with this one. So I knew I was going to go $1 to increase the farm system production, and marginally can be a little subjective, I think, but just getting the farm system in a better spot overall is worth $1. I think $1 for 3 pitching reclamation projects would be interesting, and I'm going to list the 3 that I would buy. Luis Severino, I know he might not count technically as a reclamation project, but look, man.
No, I think it is.
I think it
totally is.
Like, he flirts with that status, and he's only pitched 22 starts the last 3 years. He had a 6.65 ERA this year, 89 innings, but a 2.85 ERA in those aforementioned 3 seasons. He used to be really good, and then he's had some health problems, but he's still only like 29, I think. So from a starting perspective, yeah, so that's not bad. In the bullpen, Archie Bradley, we've talked about him several times, I think, on this pod. That's a deep cut reclamation project. You're like, okay, let's see if there's anything left. And then John Curtis, who his best ERA, his F4 is 0.4. He's only pitched 106 innings at the big league level. And I believe almost all of those have been with the Mets system, I want to say. So getting guys that you could either flip in Bradley's case, or Curtis, you can keep him around for a little bit, or Severino's case, you have a guy for a while, or, you can flip him. Then my third, so I'm up to $2. I'm going to spend the 3, man. I'm going to get Aaron Nola, I think. And that's not a move I usually would make, but he's pitched almost 600 innings over the past 3 years, 3.31 FIP. He's been worth almost 15 wins. He limits walks. He strikes out plenty of guys. He could co-headline the rotation with Cole Reagans. The problem is, where does that money come in? And before the season, people were like, okay, 5 for 100. Then I read a couple articles before we came on that said 5 for 120. Then I saw a couple that said 5 for 150. And then there was one that was higher than that. It's like, I don't know where the money settles for him. 20 million a year, 25 million a year, 18 million a year. I think he's going to command a decent amount. And then you add 10% to that. So he's 30. He's pitched a lot of innings. He's got a lot of miles on him, so it is risky. But if the Royals are serious about competing and being a good team, if they make the playoffs in 2026, he'll be 32, 33. That's a James Shields type situation where you have a guy you'll count on to eat innings, and maybe he's not perfect, but he's going to be good. And right now he's pretty damn good.
So I think even at 5 for 150, that's 30 million. That's 30 million APY.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. You want a top of the rotation, a starting pitcher, you got to spend that money like that. And even then, 30 million for a top of the rotation dude that is going to give you 180, 200 innings and be really with a, 3.5 ERA at worst. That's cheap relative to what other.
And it's not Bellinger, who's going to command $200 million probably.
So, I don't know what Cody Bellinger's.
He's weird.
I don't know.
Well, he's not weird, but the contract situation and its production has been weird.
Totally. Then I think you have $1 left. What were you spending on?
Do I? Nope. I'm up to 5, 3, 1, and 1. So I'm maxed out.
Okay. Did you talk about the marginal increase? Because you have it on here that you had.
Yeah, just getting it in a better position and getting whether that's getting one top 10 guy to make a big improvement, and then one 10 to 20, however you want to split that up, just improving the farm system in general. If you can lock that in for one of your $5, I think that regardless of what subjective measure you want marginally to be, I think that that's probably worth spending $1.
Yeah, one of mine is one of the other prospect one. I'll get to that in a bit. So I know we just talked about we have no idea what Cody Bellinger is going to make. If I had the opportunity to sign Cody Bellinger, I'd do it.
Okay.
Because he is not the same guy that won MVP in 2019. 47 home runs, 161 weighted runs created plus an 8-win player. He's not that guy. But he's also not the guy that he was from 2020 to 2022 that was, what happened? Like, to say he was terrible, I think is an insult to the word terrible. It was like one of the craziest fall-offs for a guy in the middle of his prime, or like entering his prime, just out of nowhere. He's still 27 years old, or he'll be 28 next season. This year with the Cubs, 307, 356, 525. He had the lowest strikeout rate of his career, a 134 weighted runs created plus, 26 home runs, which is his most since that MVP year in 2019, 97 RBIs. He stole 20 bags. He was a 4.1 F4 player. He's a great center field. Like, absolutely could hold down center field at Kauffman Stadium. Can play first base if you need it. Can play left field if you need it. Whatever it is. And the Royals have not had a great center fielder since Lorenzo came left. Like, they have not. Michael A. Taylor was a good defensive center fielder. But to have an all-around guy, I know you're buying high on a guy. You're coming off a year like this. Like, if he had a 105 weighted runs created plus and he was just good, I think I'd still make that move because I still would bet on the upside that he can figure it out. But it would be, I think, one of those moves, kind of similar to Aaron Nola, where it is, we're serious about trying to win soon. Because we know the young guys that we have. You have a ton of cost-controlled players on your team, position players. You can't afford to go and get a guy if you really want him. I would go and get Cody Bellinger. I absolutely would if the opportunity presented itself. I don't think it will. I think he's going to command too much money. But if it was my money, I would go and do it. My next dollar I'm spending, I'm kind of spreading mine out here. I'm going and revamping the analytics department still. Like, everything on the scout. Like, I'll spend $2 right there on the staff. More scouts, more cross-checkers, all of that stuff. I think they just need more outside voices on the player development and scouting side. And because I think Danny Altaveros, he's, VP of scouting now. I think he's done a fine job, but I think there just but he's been around for so long. I think they just need to inject more outside voices in there, some new ways of looking at things to help bring some new perspective so we can get some better players in the system. And then my last thing, I'll spend $1 to get Gavin Cross on track again because this system needs it bad. Like, I think this is not me trying to dunk on the Royals system. I think there are fine players in here. Like, I think there are guys that you look at and we talk about, oh, that's a big leaguer. Mm-hmm. But that's about where the conversation ends. Like, because we don't know how good they could be. Like, sure, some dudes are like Vinny Pasquantino, where they just come out of nowhere from the middle rounds and turn into really good big leaguers. Sure, there's some of that. There's also guys like Drew Waters or Kyle Isbell or most of this system that's like, okay, they can get there. What are they when they get there? Like, how good can they actually be? How much value can they provide? Gavin Cross at his ceiling is a very good 2.5 to 3 win player, if not more. With the power output, very good defense, a good base runner. I think he would fit in great. If he can get it figured out, then I think you put him on track for a 2025 debut, it changes the math on where the Royals could be and what the timeline looks like. Conversely, if he stumbles again, then we're really hurting. Because it's another first-round pick that did not work out. And there are far more first-round picks, sans Bobby Witt Jr., that have not worked out than have at this point. So the Royals need a guy like this to turn it around and figure it out.
Yeah, they can. When you're an organization that is doing a lot of other stuff, right, you can afford to, mess up a couple picks or a couple signings or whatever. But when you're not doing everything right and like you're signing, you're not spending money, you're not drafting necessarily terrifically well after that first round. Like, they're getting better, I think, at a lot of stuff. But if you whiff on another one, premium investment, premium hopium of investing in that prospect and having him help lead the next core, and then that also fails, then you're in a rough spot. Like, you can't afford to continuously have that happen outside of Bobby Witt Jr. We don't know what's going to happen with Frank Mazzucato. Like, it is
Blake Mitchell is a wild.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, that is a nuts on table pick. And it was kind of a nuts on table draft. And that's not what I expected. We are going to find out, I think, not necessarily quickly, but that draft is going to sink or swim a lot of people, I think, 100%. Including the prospects. Like, it's going to go beyond just what they do.
Yeah. Thinking of some of those draft picks, and this was something I thought about a while ago, meant to mention it on the show, but jogged my brain. We talked about the 23 draft. There was some video that went out of Blake Walters throwing it in trucks. I see why they drafted him in the second round. 96 to 97. The slider is as advertised. Still a little all over the place, but you can absolutely see the projectability. He's a big dude, fluid mechanics, uses his frame well. He is the guy that I'm very, very excited for next year when he gets to Columbia, whenever they decide to send it.
I love video, even when it's bad video. Like, I just going beyond getting on Fangraphs or getting on Baseball America or MLB Pipeline or like whatever site you go to and looking at numbers, like being able to see the intricacies of, oh, this is where this guy's hand placement is, or, oh, this is where this guy's arm slot is, or, oh, he's tipping this pitch, or like stuff like that. Being able to visibly see the progress or even the tidbits of, oh, Dylan Coleman is, spending his time here, or this guy's going there, or Cole Riggins went to this place. Like, just the development aspect, not having the bandwidth or the manpower or the resources or any of that, or the time to get down to those places and kind of scout that stuff out. It's interesting for sure.
Absolutely. You got any final thoughts here before we end our season, basically?
Oh man, just I'm not crying. My voice has been kind of in and out throughout the podcast, but I just wanted to make that clear. Just thank everybody genuinely for tuning in throughout the year. I know that this season was a lot more trying for you than you anticipated, unless you were just the biggest Royals pessimist out there. But thank you for tuning in all year and asking questions, interacting on Twitter, subscribing to YouTube, subscribing to Apple, Spotify, whatever platform you used. Interacting with us throughout the year was awesome. Getting Twitter questions was great. Getting the YouTube comments was awesome. Just people tuning in, showing appreciation, giving negative feedback, giving positive feedback, asking a question, giving a suggestion, simply downloading, simply listening, tuning in for 10 seconds, tuning in for the entire season. Just a massive thank you to everybody for the whole year pretty much. And we're going to have stuff in the off season. Obviously, we are not done for 6 months or however long it is until March, but it is going to be a lot more sporadic. And we thank you for tuning in through this long ride of the season.
Yeah, I do want to thank the Royals organization too.
Yep.
Because we had the opportunity to sit down with JJ Picollo before the season. During the year, we had interviews with Alex Zumwalt and Austin Cox. We want to be able to do more next year. So that was just to have that small opportunity this year to kind of build what we possibly, what this can turn into was really cool. And the opportunity to sit down with those guys was something I'll always remember because that's really cool stuff. Not many people have that sort of opportunity. And then KCSN, obviously, this is an incredible platform, an incredible company. I couldn't be more grateful to be working with all of these great people here. There's so many great shows, and to be a small part of it does mean a lot. Not just the incredible content that's able to go out, but the mission and what we're able to do in the community as well is not something I'm not taking for granted. That's for sure. This is an incredible place to be, and I can't wait for next year. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to make it bigger. We're going to make it better. We appreciate everybody that listens to the show. I did not expect to continually see a couple hundred views on YouTube or a couple hundred downloads in like the middle of July when this team had like 25 wins and we had no idea what to expect and where things were going to go. But hopefully next year's better. Hopefully there's more wins to talk about, a lot more good stuff. Maybe hopefully we're having like a Bobby Witt Jr. MVP conversation and can go from there.
I do have 2 more orders of business. Producer Nick, actually 3, I guess. Producer Nick Springer, thank you for helping us throughout the big chunk of this season. Tucker Franklin, thank you behind the scenes for editing and helping set everything up. And then Josh Kaiser, hope to never speak to you or hear from you again. No, I'm just kidding. Josh, you are the best. Thank you for being along on this ride with us. And Joel, also thank you for welcoming us onto the show originally and having a fun year.
Oh yeah, dude, this is a ton of fun. You and I have wanted to do a podcast together for God knows how long. So I was glad that it worked out the way it did, that you were able to come on and do this with me. I rotate, if you were a new listener, I rotated guests throughout last season. It was a pain in the ass because there would be weeks where people, like everybody that like I would go to would be busy and I was having to scramble. So to get Jordan on, keep Josh here, once Wells Farm Report, unfortunately, left because Alex, stepped away from it all. I'm glad we were able to keep Josh in. Josh knows ball, but to have his comedic relief in there too, made it great. I will always remember him munching down on some habanero peppers on the show. That's like core memory type stuff. So
he's a madman,
absolute madman. But God, true to his word, and you always respect that. We can't thank y'all enough for listening to us this season. 2023 has come to a close for us. If, whenever wild news pops up, any free agency moves or a big trade or something like that comes about, we'll hop on, we'll give you some thoughts and get you through the off season. Hopefully we're able to do a little more than that, but whatever we're able to do, we'll get you some Royal stuff throughout the off season and keep cheering on the Chiefs and whatever else you guys love to pay attention to. And, we'll talk to y'all soon.